Are we on? Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody. We are talking about the fierce battles that are raging right now as we speak in Ukraine. World War III alert. The peace deal that Donald Trump suggested for Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky to sign has been rejected by the Europeans. A lot of people in America are saying that peace deal is not actually a peace deal. It's more like a wish list for President Vladimir Putin. However, we are in an absolute overdrive at the moment, guys, because the Russians are taking ground hand over foot and they are heading west. And every foot that the Russians head west, that is a foot closer, or a meter, I guess, because those guys are on the metric system out there. And, it's literally a meter closer to, the Russians getting to the United Kingdom. So without further ado, guys, I'm just going to get onto this. I'll give my opening monologue and then I will, and then I'll jump onto the chat and I will get your chats. We are triple streaming this morning, guys. We're on YouTube, we're on X, and we are on TikTok. I tried to open the chat again this morning on TikTok. I don't know how to do it. It's absolutely swizzled me. So what I think I'm going to do is this afternoon, or maybe even tonight, I think I'm going to go in the house and absolutely change everything. Right. So I'll just give you these headlines real quick. So fierce battle for the frontline towns where Ukraine soldiers are surrounded. With peace plan put out to President Zelensky, the Ukrainian town of Pokrovsk and Miroharad, fiercely defended throughout the war, risk being encircled by Russian forces. We said this, didn't we, guys? I don't know whether it was last week or the week before. We was on the live stream and I just spoke to one of my friends. I said, listen, mate, I said, what's the deal in Pokrovsk? He says, Sean, Pokrovsk has gone. It's already fallen. There's not a chance that the Ukrainians can hold on to it. Turns out that could be happening in the next couple of days. I will be sharing the war map with you guys shortly, but that town of Pokrovsk is almost totally encircled. And why should this affect you? Why should this bother you if you live in the United Kingdom? Well, it should bother you if you live in the United Kingdom more than it should bother you if you live in the United States. In fact, another thing I meant to mention, there was another Christmas shooting yesterday in America so there was the one in Concord, and there was also another shooting in Chicago. Total media blackout over here, guys. Total media blackout about this. So if you live in the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom are massively upscaling our military industrial complex. We're building, I think we announced 15 new factories. I might be slightly wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was 15 new factories to build drones, automated systems for the conflict in Ukraine. Now, this level of investment, this level of financial support, it doesn't happen for nothing. It doesn't happen if if these things are not going to escalate and if people are not in this for the long haul. So footage geolocated by Sky News shows Russian soldiers walking through Stakyansk neighborhood on the outskirts of Pokrovsk on Thursday. And for those of you guys who've not seen this footage, you don't know what I'm talking about. The situation in Ukraine, that all these towns, these cities, these villages, there's nothing left of them, guys. It's just rubble and concrete. It really is rubble and concrete. All the people have left. There really isn't much there in the sense of infrastructure or people. So, I think people should stop having this image of, because all these people have already gone. So in these big towns, the people have already evacuated. They're not going to stay there when there's heavy fighting. All these people will have left. All these people will have gone west. But more and more, the Russians are moving forwards. And I keep saying this, guys, there really isn't a way to stop the Russians at the moment. The Ukrainians need more men. That's it. Ultimately, they need more men. I will share with. I'll share all the videos later, but the video sheds light on the situation in those key towns at the front. Pokrovsk, one of the satellite towns, and it really is one of Ukraine's last remaining outposts, because there's from this town, and it will come in the news pretty soon. When this town falls, they're calling it a city. It's not a city, guys. It's a town. When this city falls, or this town, when it falls, Pokrovs, there's nothing then to stop the Russians making about 120 kilometer dash up to the River Dnipro. Also, the peace plan, and this is from an article from the Telegraph that was published today. Ukraine. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Well, I did have the headline where it said Ukraine peace plan. Europe. Okay, there it is. So the Europeans have rejected Donald Trump's peace negotiation. Now, I don't know what this peace plan, what this 28 peace plan offer is. I really don't know what it is. Best case scenario, I think Donald Trump's trying to at least get people around the table negotiating. So then, if he sends something that looks very good to Vladimir Putin, he's going to want to come to the negotiating table and talk. So at least he's got, somebody interested, because when people don't talk, that's when the bombs start falling. And you know what? The bombs are already falling. So I'm going to read you this, guys. This was updated 10 minutes ago. This situation is really dynamic at the moment out in Ukraine. Forgot to talk. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Trump says peace plan not the final offer, as senators brand it as a Russian wish list. And it absolutely is, guys. The peace plan or the ceasefire negotiation, it was no, and I get it, guys. I totally get it. Nobody wants to see fighting. Nobody wants to see young men and women not coming back to their families. Can we have in the world, because I'll tell you where this goes right now. If we have in the world where we just say, oh, okay, if a bigger country takes some of your smaller country, they're allowed because they're a bigger country. Where are the international rules? Where's the sense of fair play? Where's the real game there? Where's the real game? It makes no sense. It makes no sense, because ultimately that will lead to a one world government and a bigger war, because people will just expand until you get two superpowers, and then they will have a war. US senators have accused Donald Trump of advancing a Ukraine peace proposal that reflects Russian priorities, a claim rejected by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the State Department. Senators Angus King, Janine Shaheen. Okay, that's a name. I don't even know who that is. Janine Shaheen. Mike Rounds told reporters at a security forum in Canada that Rubio privately described the 28 peace plan as a Russian wish list and not the administration's plan. During calls he made while traveling to Geneva for the talk. So I think this I think what this is doing is just highlighting what I just said. I think it's better to get people around the negotiating table than them not be around the negotiating table. So I think that's what it could have been, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, it's just absolute capitulation, and the United States are leaving Ukraine, which I think they're going to do anyway. Right, let me jump over, guys, because I've got excuse me. Where are we? Forgot. This morning, I was in a bit of a rush on the... sorry, guys, I've not got the chat on. This morning, I was in a bit of a rush. I was struggling with a light. I was trying to get everybody on again. Didn't work because you guys on TikTok, you guys can't comment. And I do want you guys to comment because, you have some great guys over on TikTok. And unfortunately, the way it's working now, I can't turn on my phone. You can only comment on because I'm using my phone because the cameras are not good enough. So you can only comment on TikTok at the moment how I'm doing it. If you guys have got if you guys are super fans, right? Let me get some comments. Toxic Goy Hole, interesting name. Toxic Goy Hole is saying, can you explain to the young people should go fight for Ukraine or Israel borders when the governments all over the world have sold out their own? I think that should read, and I understand the question. Can you explain to the young people why they should go and fight for Ukraine or Israel's borders when the governments all over the Western world have sold out their own? I can't. I absolutely can't explain that to you, buddy. I can't explain that at all. No, I can't. I can't explain that at all. There are no words on the tongues of elves and men that I can explain those words. No, I can't explain it in my logic, but what I think the logic that the government will give, certainly the British government will give anyway. So the British government so Britain, Europe will be fighting in Ukraine against the Russians. That's the reality. And for you guys, this is speculation, opinion, and this video is for entertainment purposes. So let's talk about the two. Let's talk about them separately. Let's talk about the Middle East and let's talk about Europe. So the Middle East will be predominantly fought by the United States. They will go. I don't feel the Europeans getting involved in the Middle East at all. You know the phrase too many chefs boil the too. You know what? Too many chefs boil the potatoes. Too many chefs ruin the stew or whatever it is. So that's what happened in 2003 when the coalition went into Iraq. It was US led, but there were lots of other countries there. Well, initially there was 4, but more joined. So too many generals, too many political spectrums, too many different, too many different directions. It ruins that potency. So I would say that the United States will go pretty much alone, maybe with Israel, into the Middle East. And again, I'll talk about that afterwards. I live in the United Kingdom, which is part of Europe, but not part of the European Union, although you guys could argue that, and I certainly could. So what is going to be how is Keir Starmer going to get people to join the war in Ukraine? First of all, the military will go regardless. They get told to do something, they will go. And let's not pretend that the military didn't join up to fight wars, because they absolutely did. If you joined the military at some point, you thought, yeah, do you know what? I joined the military to go to wars because that's what they did. So the military, as they are now, will go. I think the bigger problem's going to come when we understand that the masses of manpower that we need to fight this war in Ukraine is just not on the cards, and it's just something that people have not even considered. So that's when I'm thinking, and I am seriously thinking that all these migrants that are coming over to the United Kingdom, that would be a very easy sell to then quickly repackage them as conscripts and push them out to the front line. People, people make these comparisons between conscripts and, NATO soldiers and say, oh, the NATO soldiers are better. You're kind of missing the point. And these people that make this analogy are absolutely missing the point. A conscript is not meant to be like for like a fully trained NATO soldier. In fact, there's never anything as a fully trained. There is never anything as a fully trained soldier. So the Russians are being very successful with conscripts right now, and the manpower and the numbers involved, guys, it really is phenomenal. So I think that's going to be the way that the British military will be deployed and the rest of the European military. As far as the United States military, I'm going to say the United States military, they all joined the military because they want to go to a war. And when people want them to go to war, they will, because that's what they joined up for. I think the bigger problem is going to come when they need more manpower. Karma Creepy Queen is saying, will the fighting be done on the front line, or are we expecting dropping all over? No, Creepy Queen. I say this all the time. And I thank you for your question, Creepy Queen. No, I don't feel bombs will be dropping on the United Kingdom. I would say Poland is the next in line to get something dropped on it. And until that happens, I will say, I'm not going to reassess that analysis. What I will say, though, is the risk of asymmetric warfare, civil war, when this breaks out, skyrockets massively. So no, we're not going to get the Auschwitz dropped on our heads and all the rest of the swizzles. But I believe, and this is my opinion, guys, and I've been right. I've hit the money pretty much all the way along this. When this starts, you will see an uptick of asymmetric warfare hit the United Kingdom, and this may even push us into the crisis phase. I don't know if you was on the live stream last night, Creepy Queen. I was talking about the different phases. I'm not going to do it now because it's kind of didactic. But the first footsteps of that, look, put it this way, right? if you are at war with a country and you have millions of undocumented men in that country, do you not think it would be very easy to recruit these people online and then just pay them to do stabby, rammy, blowy, droney? Absolutely. It will be so easy to do that. And that's where I feel the real threat is, especially in the United Kingdom. Poland's a little bit different because Poland's demographics different. They have a different, they have different policies in Poland. And Poland's proximity to Ukraine, the logistics, the infrastructure, the tanks, the guns, the bombs, the trains, all that stuff is stored in Poland. So where it makes no strategic sense to strike Britain with long-range Oshnik, Kinzhal, missiles, it makes a lot more sense to use asymmetric warfare. Toxic guy hole. What's a guy hole? I hope it's nothing rude. I hope I don't have to Google this, guys. I don't know what a guy hole is. I can tell you something, us civilians ain't leaving the women here for the imports to attack when the government sells them out. I think you're absolutely right, and I know a lot of people are feeling that. And look, guys, this comes back to one of my longest tropes. Here in the United Kingdom, we have no way to protect ourselves legally against the tyrannical government. We have zero way to protect ourselves. We're in this very peculiar situation whereby people can't go out and protest. People can't go crackers. People can't, do things that they would want to because they're worried about losing their jobs. Because if they lose their jobs, let's face it, most people have a mortgage, or they're paying rent, or they've got a car on finance, or they've got a loan, and if you don't work, guess what? You still have to pay your money back. So a lot of people have financially shackled themselves. But you know what? Do you know who are not financially shackled and who can go out on the streets and don't really care if they get arrested? The millions, actually, of people who are here illegally, because those people are getting their money regardless. They're not allowed to work. They get their 3 meals a day. They've got their human rights. So why wouldn't they cause chaos and carnage? And that's where we are. That's where we are. And it's just crazy, guys. It's absolutely bonkers. It's bonkers de bonkers. Donna is saying the Independent U.S. plans operation to drop leaflets over Venezuela in campaign against the president. Yeah, it's all kicking. Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's there. It's all kicking off in Venezuela, guys. I've got a friend out there at the moment. He's heading his way out to Venezuela. He landed yesterday in Colombia. I'm trying to get updates off him as we speak, but he's not crossed over the border yet. So I will get you as soon as he gets on the ground in Venezuela. I'll give you guys updates. Donna again is saying, LBC, Britain sleepwalking into dangers as Poland and EU brace for Russian hybrid war. UK experts. Yeah, I've been saying this a long time, ladies and gentlemen. I have. That's why you guys need to make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share my stuff. Because when I've been warning, like it was over a year ago. I think it was May last year. I did a video on YouTube and I highlighted literally everything that's happening now. I said asymmetric warfare. No, I didn't call it asymmetric warfare. Did I call it? I can't remember what I called it. Basically, I called it sabotage, asymmetric warfare, grey warfare, and the real threat to the United Kingdom. And I gave that as a top 10. And the top 10 civilian targets that you would attack if you were a bad guy. And let's be quite honest, guys. There was we shared a video the other day. What was it? It was who was he? David Betts' video, and he was saying that, and he was quite didactic about it, and he was saying that our infrastructure, it's not guarded and it can never be guarded. Now, normally, so Donna, I'm assuming you have an electricity bill, Donna, and I'm assuming you pay that electricity bill, right? Yeah. In fact, right, guys, just as a show of hands, all right, who has an electricity bill and who has to pay their electricity bill? Yeah. We all have to pay an electricity bill, don't we? Because we all need electricity. I'm using electricity now. You guys are using electricity. We charge our phones. We charge our devices. We go on the internet. We all need electricity, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's a fair, it's a fair analysis. I don't think that's controversial, right? That's not controversial. So I know, you know, that if one of our substations gets destroyed, ultimately our bill's going to go up because the cost of that repair is going to be factored into our bill. We all know that, right? So by definition, we all want electricity and we all want to pay less for it, so we don't destroy the hand that feeds us. And again, you can argue about electricity companies fleecing us, and I get that, guys. I totally take that argument. I accept that. However, let's just consider, if you was in this country and you didn't pay an electricity bill, you didn't care how much things cost because you was getting everything for free. You didn't care how much it cost to put your oven on because your food, your dinners was cooked for you. If you was getting 3 meals a day and a bit of pocket money, you wouldn't give a flying fuck about that electricity substation. You would be happy to go and burn the shit out of each and every one of them. Am I right? Tell me I'm wrong, guys. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that's not how we've worked, and tell me that's not what's coming. So when we talk about, when we talk about infrastructure, hybrid warfare, again, I don't think, it's not going to be hybrid warfare in the United Kingdom. It will be something totally different. It's going to be either there's going to have to be a new word for it, basically. Because what I believe will happen is you will get criminal gangs recruiting people, potentially from hotels, and then they will be conducting criminal acts of sabotage. I guess all acts of sabotage are criminal. And that will be in line with a war effort. For example, these new factories that are being built to build the drones. Okay, where are the parts coming from? Where are the nuts, the bolts, the sensors? Where are the chipboards coming from? Who's supplying them with power? They're very easy to take these things out without taking them out. So like there was an incident when everybody talks about Heathrow Airport being taken down by the by the substation fire, which it did. Nobody talks about Manchester Airport. There was a piece of cable cut out of there was a key piece of cable. That was a bit of a tongue twister. There was a key piece of cable, like thick copper wire, I guess. I don't know how big it was. But there was a piece of copper wire, I'm assuming it was big because it was supplying Manchester Airport, that was chopped out. They dug down and they chopped, I think it was like 6 foot or something, of copper wire out of this, this cable that supplies Manchester Airport. Manchester Airport went down, guys. And I think it was David Miliband who said the backup generators didn't work or whatever it was because they decided to have solar and they didn't work. But, you can see these things very easily, and I would say they're already here, and as Donna's saying, Britain is sleepwalking into danger as Poland and the EU brace for Russian hybrid war, warn UK experts. Men like Matt is rare. My father the same, and my granddad is sadly not here. But yes, men like Matt hard to come by. The sounds of things. Who are Matt? I don't know who Matt is, guys. Hope we're not talking about Matt Hancock. Can you remember what's his name? Can you remember that guy, Matt Hancock? Can you remember him pretending to? Can you guys? Sorry, I'm going on a side quest here. Can you guys remember Matt Hancock? When he was, crying on the camera and then he was necking with that chick outside. I'm like, the word weasel, just the word weasel comes to mind. The word absolute weasel comes to mind. Donna's saying, Sean, was just about to ask your friend, make sure you stay in contact. Yeah, so I've got a friend at the moment, guys. He's heading out to, my phone's there, he's not messaged me. He's heading out to Venezuela right now. He landed in Colombia, I think last night. Yesterday morning, actually. He landed in Colombia. He'd not slept for 48 hours. So he said, listen, Sean, I'm just absolutely bootstrapped. I need to get my head down. So he's trying to make his way out there to, to Venezuela. Oh, and Donna again is saying, Sean, I worked at Manchester Airport for over 2 years. There were also incidents. I worked 3 p.m. till 3 a.m. and I saw too much. Come on, Donna, spill the beans, Donna. What did you see? Donna? you know, when we talk about airport security, like, you know, when we talk about airport security, the I always like tell people, like, you know, if you think it's bad, you've not been through. I'm going to be very careful actually what I say now because I'm on TikTok. Do you know what, guys? I'm gonna close you guys down on TikTok in like what am I gonna close you guys down in? I'll close you guys down now on TikTok in a couple of minutes, and I will then be streaming on YouTube and X. Now, I do keep getting taken down on TikTok, guys, because I say things that are didactically correct, but for some reason I get taken down on TikTok. So I will be jumping over to YouTube very soon. Sorry. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, and I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. So if you want to continue this live stream, guys, jump over to YouTube because I will be closing this down on TikTok very soon. But if you want to talk about airport security, now I'm not going to say whether this is good or bad because it will get me banned. It will get me absolutely banned, guys. So all I'm going to give you is the actual facts, okay? The actual facts. When I was in Baghdad, so this was, I mean, God, this was like over 10 years. Well, this was over 10 years ago. I'm sure the security's got better now. But if you wanted to take a flight from Baghdad International Airport or Bayap, you had to queue up. You had to go through a load of like checks. The first one, it was a dog search. You just got sniffed, and you just had like, and these searches were not very comprehensive. So you'd get a sniffer dog. Your vehicle would get a sniffer dog, and then you would go on to the next search bay, and then you had to get out with all your bags. Then you and your bags would get a sniffer dog. Then you went through and you got your hands swabbed. Then you went through to another place and you got I think there's about 5 or 6 different checks, and they were all very lip servicey. You know, people would frisk you down and just go, "That's it." You know, and you're like, "Oh, is that it?" But if you wanted to go in the VIP lane and pay $20, you would circumvent all those searches for $20, and you would go right to you would get right into the terminal. All right. So if you wanted to circumvent all those searches, you just pay $20. So if you was a bad guy, let's just pretend that you was a bad guy, right? And I'm not saying that there are any bad guys in Baghdad. In fact, I'm saying they're all good guys in Baghdad, and everybody is peace and love and harmony and zen. That's everybody, guys, everybody, you know. And I will be turning you guys off very soon. So if you're a bad guy, you can imagine it, can't you? Like, at what point did somebody think that is a good system? So, like, you know, you're there and you're like, right, okay, I'm a bad guy. I've got something that I shouldn't have on me. Am I going to A, go through all those searches, or B, pay $20? Which one do you think it's going to be? Anyway, you get inside the terminal, and they have a very interesting way of checking people so that's just to get inside the terminal. Once you're inside the terminal, you have to then get your bag scanned like you would a normal airport. Now, I've been there several times when it's been lunchtime, and the people have just stopped searching bags because they're having their lunch. They're just having their lunch on the conveyor belts. You know what? You know the belts and stuff that you put your bags through. You know, the local guards, and this is their culture, guys. And I'm all down for culture. I love different cultures. You know, they'll be there with they'll have a tablecloth on the conveyor belt, and they're eating their dinner on the conveyor belt, and they're just saying, "Yeah, go through, go through, go through." So yeah, that's Baghdad International Airport or Bayap. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, you guys on TikTok, you fantastic lot on TikTok. I am going to close you guys down now. I will be continuing this live stream over. In fact, you know what? I am going to close it down actually. I'm going to close you guys down now on TikTok. I will continue this live stream over on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. And if not, I will see you later. Right, they are off. I need to sort that chat out, guys. I really need to sort that chat out on TikTok because I don't know how to change it on my phone. And if I use my other computer, it just slows everything down. So I don't know how I'm gonna fix that. But I think I'm gonna go in the house later on. Toxic Goyle is saying, just hearing Matt Hancock made me very angry. Wow, I thought I managed to get a grip of that. Can you remember him? Can you guys remember him when he was crying on TV? Oh, and Donna's saying from her work in Manchester Airport, we had numerous arrests relating to diversions, fires, and even kaboom scares. We evacuated a few times. We had at one time a man running around at the airport in his boxers. Like, this sort of stuff happens in Baghdad all the time. I would bet that no one ever patted down Jacob de Rothschild. I think he would have definitely got in the. I think if he was a Rothschild, he would definitely be in the. He'd definitely be in the VIP lane. Absolutely, he'd definitely be in the VIP lane. Belfast is saying a spiralist thinks that they aren't scanning nothing more than energy. Oh, right, okay, a spiritual. All right, okay. So, no, I think they're looking for stuff. I definitely think they're looking for stuff, for security stuff. Right, where are we? Right, listen, guys, I'm going to go through this again because there's a few people jumping that have not jumped on, that have missed the beginning of this live stream. So this video is a World War III alert, guys. You know, the peace deal has been the ceasefire negotiation that Donald Trump has, the 28-point plan that Donald Trump, the 28-point peace plan that Donald Trump's negotiated or that he's proposed with Vladimir Putin. It's been rejected by the Europeans, you know, and it was always going to get rejected, you know. Ultimately, the only two people, you know, and even if, you know, and this is what people don't understand. And I don't think, in fact, Donald Trump's got to understand this, because if I understand this, I'm sure that, you know, the United States have good people in charge. So, oh, hang on a minute. Cheryl Heppelstone is saying, what have I missed? Right, I'm running through what we've been talking about now, Sherry. So I am running through. We're talking about, you know, there's a World War III alert right now. The situation on the front line in Ukraine is getting worse. The Russians are pushing heavy into that area of Pokrovsk. They only have a couple of days, guys, in that location of Pokrovsk. The peace deal has been rejected by the Europeans, and the Russians are pushing further and further west. What people don't understand is, and I don't know whether they're just doing this for pomp and pageantry or whether it's some sort of, I don't know, behind the scenes 5D chess or something. But even if Zelensky comes out tomorrow and he says, right, everybody, we're not fighting anymore. We're going to have a ceasefire. The units that are deployed in the East, they're going to keep fighting. They will keep fighting. And that would be my analysis. My analysis would be, even if Zelensky says stop fighting, even if Putin says stop fighting, they will continue to fight. Why do I say that? Because I was out there in 13, I think, was it? I think safely 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, back out there in 22, back out there in 23. So in those years, pre-22, there was something called the Minsk II peace agreement. Now, the Minsk II peace agreement was supposed to be a ceasefire agreement where nobody would fire. And let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, everybody was shooting. Everybody was firing. There was no, you know, you imagine, don't you? You imagine that when these, you imagine that, like, this is like the image of, like, on the front line, right? You imagine that the front line is like, boom, 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 ba, 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 you know, and then you get this ceasefire come in and it comes on the radio and everybody goes, stop. No, this is what happens. Ceasefire's here. boom, 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 ba 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 ba, boom, boom, boom. You know, so how do you enforce a ceasefire, guys? Serious question. And these are questions that nobody's really answering. How do you enforce a ceasefire? Just pretend, for example, right, that you just visualize it in your head, right? You've got two front lines, they're shooting at each other. You tell them to stop, they don't stop. What do? Do you send in your own troops then to close down those troops? Like, how do you enforce a ceasefire? You know, the phrase itself is oxymoronical. It makes no sense. You can't enforce a ceasefire. It's impossible. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Stop shooting? No. Okay, stop shooting or I'm going to shoot you. But that would be, you know, that would be encouraging a ceasefire. You know, that would be more violence. So it makes no sense. It's never going to happen. So hang on, let me just open this screen. Right, so this is an article from, what are we on now? This is The Independent, published today at 9:38. So like 22 minutes before I came on the live stream or whatever. And it was updated 14 minutes ago. So I will jump, I'll get the headline and I'll jump down to the live update since we've been on. And look, guys, if you live in the United Kingdom, this is going to be the conflict that is going to affect everyone. I would say it's affecting everybody anyway, with our energy costs, with our cost of living, all that sort of stuff. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Trump says peace plan, not final offer, as senators brand it a Russian whistle. What the direction they're going. You know, in the White House, they may say, look, let's write a plan that is good for Putin. Maybe we can get everybody around the table again, because without people coming around the table and talking, then you have got absolutely zero hope of a ceasefire. Right, so I have got updates, guys, from the last few minutes. Right, I'll go on from when I started the live stream. You know what, can I make, no. Right, 16 minutes ago. Right, so from 16 minutes ago. Okay. So we've got some controversy here, guys. We've got some controversy. We've got literally. Okay. So we've got some controversy. So, like I just said there, Marco Rubio said that this is a Russian wish list and it's not the final proposal. Turns out, as of 16 minutes ago, United States insists peace plan is Russian wish list. Right, this makes no sense. I'm going to read this, guys. I'm just going to read this. I'm just going to read the words instead of trying to read and give speculation at the same time. US politicians critical of Donald Trump's approach to ending the Ukraine-Russia war have said Secretary of State Marco Rubio told them that the peace plan the president is pushing Kiev to accept is a wish list of the Russians and not the actual proposal offering Washington's proposal. A State Department spokesperson denied their account, calling it blatantly false. Mr. Rubio himself then took the extraordinary step of suggesting online that the senators were mistaken. Oh, okay. Even though they said he was their source of the information. The Secretary of State doubled down on the assertion that Washington was responsible for the proposal that had surprised many from the beginning for being so favorable to Moscow. So I read earlier that Marco Rubio said that this wasn't the final plan and it was a Russian wish list. He's now come out and said, no, that's fake news. And he's saying that he's calling it blatantly false. So I don't know what's happening there, guys. Maybe it was something said and maybe it was a misinterpretation. Maybe it was just a blatant lie. The reality is I don't think anybody understands what's happening at the moment. 18 minutes ago, Russia back in the G8. No NATO for Ukraine. What's in Trump's 28-point plan to end the war? I mean, we've already done this. I'm not going to go through this again, guys. I did this like I think the first day it was out. If anybody wants me to go through that, guys, I mean, for me, the first four are the main important. So it would be Ukraine's sovereignty will be confirmed. Again, these words mean nothing. Like, you can't, like, can you, like, if you say to somebody who's already invaded you twice to respect your borders, like, where do you go with that? They're saying a comprehensive non-aggression agreement will be concluded between Russia, Ukraine, and Europe, and all parties that will last 30 years. Russia will not invade neighboring countries, and NATO will not expand further. It's all bullshit, guys. The whole thing doesn't really, the whole thing is just silly. It's just silly words. They're just silly words at the moment. Trump is the world's biggest troll. I love the news with him in it. What a guy. Look, ladies and gentlemen, the United States, they're about to, I think the United States are going to go into, I think the United States may be about to go into phase 3 as well, actually. I think the United States could be very close to popping into a crisis phase. If you think things happen quickly, it's the only way that they can happen. When we're talking about civil conflict, when we're talking about things going absolutely upside down, I love watching Trump as well. But let's not pretend he's not a globalist, and he's not got this globalist agenda, and he's not got this globalist direction of travel, because he absolutely has. And when things happen, they happen quick. So in the United States, I can caffeinate myself now. In the United States, they have a lot of guns, and I'm all for guns, guys. I think we should have guns in the United Kingdom. I think if people had guns, what do we think, guys? Would you feel safer if you had if we had firearms laws in the United Kingdom? Like, would you feel safer? I'm talking about women now. Like, would the girls feel safer if they were, if you were packing like a Glock, I don't know, something simple like a Glock 19 or something, or a little handbag gun? But in the United States, in the United States, they have firearms, so things can get ugly very quickly in America. But the difference is in America, you have the legal protection to defend yourself. Here we don't. Here we are at the absolute mercy of the police. And just, how is that backing out, guys? How is that panning out for everybody? This voting thing and asking for the police. Donna, Millie Mono is saying, yes, she would feel better with it if she could pack. You would, guys, you would, because ultimately, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but the only people who are armed in the United Kingdom are criminals. And that doesn't sound right, does it? It doesn't sound right that in the United Kingdom, the only people who are armed are criminals. Donna, with a fantastic Christmas tree, again, is saying, The Guardian, Zelensky says we must do everything against wicked Russian attacks as Ukraine and US meet for emergency talks. Yeah, it's going down, guys. It's really going down in Ukraine. The Ukrainians are losing ground hand over foot. It's only a matter of time before that town of Pokrovsk has gone. The Russians are pretty much encircled it. I'll get you. I'll share the map with you guys here. Give me a second. So this is the map of Ukraine. This is the situation on the ground as of the 21st of November. So okay, so it's not updated for yesterday, right? Okay, so there's a date. It's not updated. So I would suspect that these areas of basically this. So I'll give you a little. I don't know if you guys, I've done this quite a few times. So this is Ukraine. Ukraine is huge. You've got Belarus, Poland, Romania, Moldova. You've got, what's this? Is that what's that area called? That's not Kaliningrad, is it? That's I can't remember. That's another Russian enclave. So what I want to bring to everybody's attention is the situation here around this town called Pokrovs. Now, Pokrovs is the last in the media they call this a city. Pokrovs. It's not a city, guys. It's a town at best. I mean, it's like, let's just say from there to there. It's like 3.7, call it 3.8, call it 4 kilometers. You know, it's not, it's less. Call it 4. It's not a city, guys. All right. If this was in European, it's not a city. It's a town at best. Anyway, doesn't matter. So this is really the last fortress town in this region of Ukraine. Now, the reason the Ukrainians want to hold on to it is because of the rail links. You've got a rail link coming in from the north, a rail link coming in from the south, and then you've got these two main supply routes going north and south, and of course you've got the rail routes coming out. So they want to keep onto that infrastructure, and obviously the Russians want that infrastructure for themselves as well. So you've got Pokrovs that looks like it's overrun anyway. You've got Mino Horad, which is pretty much encircled as it is. Now, let me just give you guys context. I can remember when I was doing these live streams and I was talking about, where are we? Yeah, these towns here. I was talking about Vuhledar, sorry. You know, the Russians did the exact same thing with Vuhledar. They came from the north, they came from the south, they encircled it, and then they closed it in. It's called the pincer movement. And I can remember doing live streams and saying, oh, look, they're doing this, and then, okay, they move on. I can remember the exact same about this town here, guys, Velyeka Novosilka. They came from the north, came from the south. They've got this river here. You know, they did exactly the same. They did the pincer movement. And then you've got, where are we? Have I totally lost it? Oh, no, yeah. And then we've got Pokrov. So, look, guys, they're doing this pincer movement here. They're coming from the south. They're coming from the north. They've literally encircled these villages now. It's only a matter of time. Now, the significance of this one here, Pokrovs, is because there's nothing but open farmland now. Literally nothing but open farmland from the River Dnipro to, I don't know, say here, wherever it is. That 134 kilometers or whatever it is, obviously, you know, this is less and these guys are going to push up and these, you know, so there's nothing there but open farmland. The only thing that will stop or slow the Russians down traversing that land is the weather. That is literally it, guys. So that's the situation on the ground right now. And I think the Ukrainians were blessed with a relatively warm winter last year. It only got down to like -10 or something. So when it starts to get down to like -20, that's when the Russians will come into their own, because the Russians can operate in that temperature. All that farmland, all that beautiful farmland that is that has a high water table, that will have like maybe 2-3 feet of ice. So those Russian tanks can go straight over the top of that like it's, you know, like they're riding on concrete. Toxic is saying the bankers have screwed the pooch again and we're about to have another banking crash. We are, guys. There's something called the... is it the Schiller Index? Is it the Schiller Index? Hang on, let me... I don't think it is the Schiller Index. No, it is the Schiller Index. It is the Schiller Index. So there's something called the Schiller Index in economics. And guys, this is not, you know, this is not financial advice, but the Schiller Index is something that predicts the actual cost, the value and the stock. It's the stock market basically. And what this does is it tracks how much things are overvalued. Right now, guys, everything's overvalued. Like, we are massively overvaluing everything. Like, everything's ridiculously overvalued. And like, what you see on the Schiller index, do you know what? I'll do another video on it. It's financial stuff and it's a bit boring. But basically, when things get overvalued like they are now, there's always a financial crash afterwards, you know, and it always goes down and then it finds a median and then it goes back up again. Like, if you look at this on a graph, you have like the Great Depression, which was like this much. Then you have like the 2008 financial crash, which was like this much. And then you have where we are now, and it's like that. You need like a new graph thing. So yes, absolutely, we are absolutely primed for another absolutely fall down, guys. We are. User FW3 with a load of numbers is saying it's a testing ground for Skynet. Are we talking? So are we talking Terminators? Or are we talking the actual British system that was developed in the 70s called Skynet? What are we talking, guys? Are we using butter? Are we using butter? Are we using butter as a are we is that where we are, guys? Have we descended into using butter as currency already? Are we using butter as currency already? And Miliano is saying GB News breaking: UK ramps up military patrols in the channel in major warning to Vladimir Putin. I wonder if they're going to be letting do you see how absurd this is right now, guys? Like, we can't stop the rubber dinghies, but we can put the, you know, it's absurd. You know, I don't see any circumstances where we're going to get an attack by a Russian military. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't see any scenario at the moment where Britain is attacked by, go on. Russian conventional forces. Yeah. By Russian conventional forces. I don't see any scenario where that happens, guys. If and when Poland is attacked, I will totally reconsider what I've just said. But you know, at the moment, it seems really strange that the governments are putting all this, like, you know, are putting all this stuff out there about, you know, how much of a threat Vladimir Putin is. And I get it, you know, he is, you know, I get it. He absolutely is. 100%, guys. I totally accept Vladimir Putin and the Russian threat. If they are left unchecked, they will move. They will go all the way through, you know, they will go all the way through Europe. And I've done videos on how that would happen, you know, because they wouldn't do it conventionally. And people say, oh, the Russians don't have the military to do it conventionally. I'm like, yeah, you guys are missing the point. You know, these military analysts, who've only ever analyzed little bits of paper, and they've never been there and they've never seen things, and they don't understand how easy and difficult some things are. So the Russians definitely have the, the capacity to push all the way through Europe, and get to the shores of Calais, I guess. And you think immigration's bad now. So they absolutely have that ability. The real threat, though, is asymmetric warfare, and you're seeing just this, like it's like a little game of public opinion. It's got like that Sherlock Holmes movie, Game of Shadows. This is like game of public opinion. So, you know, the British public need to be prepped, and they need to be primed, and they need to prime the British public about how dangerous Vladimir Putin is. And I get it, he is, but not right now, not here. They're not coming now. All right, they're going to push through Europe first, and when that happens, we can reconsider. Lisa Jane is saying, Sean, have you kept up to date with the Danny Tomo Razor Flags colours on YouTube? I've seen some of them. I don't know if I might not have seen his latest. I really wanted to go down there to France. I did, guys. I wanted to go down there to France. I was like, right, should I just make my way down there and try and make contacts while I'm down there and like try and get social media to help me out? I didn't go. I didn't go, obviously, because I had to fit a carpet. I didn't go and stop the invasion, guys. Listen, I'm gonna put it out there. I didn't go and stop the invasion because I needed to fit a carpet. All right, let's just deal with it, guys. All right, let's just deal with it. I didn't go and stop the invasion because I needed to fit a carpet. All right, and I needed to get that carpet down. But the carpet's down now, ladies and gentlemen. The carpet's down. The electrician's still not being out. He's still messing me about. Millie Mono is saying, neither do I, Sean. I think we are playing a silly game. We're playing silly games. Donna is saying, the engineer, UK lasers weapon shoots down high-speed drones. Yeah, they're not going to work, guys. Lasers. We all want laser beams. We got these laser beams. They don't work. They don't work. Okay, they do work. But they don't work. But they don't work for the new threat. So these lasers, yeah, I did it, guys. I did it, right? I did it. I printed it off. So these lasers are built for this one. This one. Maybe, I don't know how much these things cost. That's an RQ4. Probably hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment on that. That's called an RQ4. A laser is very good at taking that down. Very good at taking that down, a laser. These ones here at the bottom, these smaller ones, maybe arm's distance apart. These things, well, you can buy that shell. You guys can buy that shell on eBay for like $400 or whatever. Maybe even cheaper. Maybe even get a cheaper shell. So $400 now. So you can see how these lasers will get overwhelmed by these things heading straight at them. Absolutely overwhelmed, heading straight at them. So yes, lasers can shoot down these, lasers can shoot down these ones, and they'll be very successful. They'll be very successful. The problem is when there's 20 or 30 of these things swarming at them, they're useless. They're not going to be worth it. Like, honestly, they won't even get used. And how are you going to deploy them on the front line? Like, okay, so you've got one of those lasers by a nuclear power plant. Absolutely fine. You've got all the power you need. You're hooked into the nuclear power plant's primary grid or whatever. Absolutely fine. You've got that. You've got that. How are you going to deal with that on the front line where you're getting... where these ones here, these little quadcopter things are coming over and there's like maybe 50 a day dropping hand grenades on you. How are you going to deal with that? Well, you're not, because you don't have the electricity to keep that going. These things are big. And with lasers as well, it's another one of those fake... it's another one of those fake news stories. So they tell you that this. I remember this guy who didn't understand physics. Basically, he didn't understand physics. So I think his name's Dominic Waghorn. It might not be, and if it's not Dominic Waghorn, I do apologize to Dominic Waghorn. He was stood there and he's saying, this laser that the British military have got can shoot down a multi-million-dollar drone for the price of a bottle of wine. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. You can shoot down a multi-million-dollar drone for a bottle of wine. But when 100 of these cheap drones are flying at you, our multi-million-dollar system got defeated by a $400 drone. What they don't understand is it's not the laser. Yes, the laser costs, the electricity that it costs to charge the capacitors. Yes, I get that. What about the radars that, because that laser it's light and it has to be very focused. So that's firing. Who aims that? Do you think there's somebody? Do you think there's a guy doing this? No, absolutely not. These things are done with computers. These things are, you will have an active and a passive radar. So you'll have like a wide ranging radar that will say, yes, there's something over there. And then you have the other radar that will track onto that. And then that tells the laser where to point. So now you've got two radars to deal with, which are vulnerable in themselves. You've got the hydraulics. I'm going to assume it's a hydraulic motor because you won't be able to get the an electric motor would give too many phases. So now you've got the hydraulics to deal with. Now you've got the radars to deal with, and the whole thing is just bullshit, guys. Lasers are bullshit. They were designed 5 years ago. The call went out maybe 5 years ago for this, maybe 5 years ago for this laser system. That's what they come up with. The battlefield is totally different now. Belfast and Beyond is saying these immigrants, a lot of them is saying we ruined their land during the wars. It was Iraq and Afghanistan. I've heard a lot blaming us in the United States and the United Kingdom. They're right. They're right. The problem is when you go out there and you try to help someone and they don't want to help you, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? When you've got bad guys crashing into Twin Towers and bringing them down, and you've got, Saddam Hussein and his sons running an absolute mock in Baghdad, especially like the Iraqis, what would they prefer? I mean, are people happy under Taliban rule in Afghanistan? I would say not. Were the Iraqis happy under Saddam Hussein's rule? I would say not. So it's some people are not ready to govern themselves. They're not, and I don't think I don't think we understood. I certainly didn't. You think all people are the same, right? They're not. Not all people are the same. Like Iraqis are very tribal. Sorry, Arabs. Arabs are very tribal. They are very tribal. So they don't really care about the government. They care about their local tribe. Now, hang on a minute. Oh, guys, look, if anybody thinks we're not fucked, like financially in the United Kingdom, we're absolutely fuzzled. Here in the United Kingdom, guys, we are absolutely fuzzled. Like, all eyes are on this budget at the moment. There's some wild stuff coming out. And like, can you remember how GDP fell off the edge of a cliff? Every time Rachel Reeves opens her mouth, we become poorer. Tell me I'm wrong, guys. Tell me I'm wrong. Every time Rachel Reeves opens her mouth in public, we become poorer. Right, what was we talking about before? Yeah, we were talking about the Middle East, wasn't we? So if anybody's ever spent any time, and look, guys, and I have positive experiences in the Middle East. The Middle East really is beautiful. I'm not talking about like the towns and the cities and stuff, because they are like, for wanting to quote Donald Trump, some Middle Eastern cities are absolute shitholes, guys. They're absolute shitholes. I'm talking about the country. Like I can remember sat just in Baghdad, and on a Friday we would go up onto the roof and we would have T-bones. It would be T-bone Friday. We'd have T-bones, big cigars, and bottles of red wine, and we'd watch the sun go down over the Tigris. And I can't remember if it's the Tigris or Euphrates that goes through Baghdad. It was absolutely beautiful, guys. Absolutely, probably one of the most beautiful places on earth. But you've got this. I don't know what it is, guys. I think I don't want to put my finger on it, but it's certainly a Middle Eastern. There's certainly a The Middle Eastern mentality is not a mentality for self-governance. Right, let me Right, listen, guys. I am going to close this down. I'm just going to quickly recap. World War III alert. The peace deal has been rejected by the Europeans, or the 28-point, the 28-point, the 28-point peace plan, whatever it's called. It's been rejected by the Europeans. Donald Trump's now saying it's not the only one, and it's just a starting block or whatever. I spoke about it earlier. The Russians are raging forwards, guys. The Russians are raging forwards, and they're taking ground every day. And at some point, that town of Pokrovsk is going to fall. And as soon as that town of Pokrovsk falls, there's going to be nothing to stop the Russians up to the Dnipro. Slim Yin is saying, with the call to prayer going off in the background, you see, when I'm in the Middle East, I kind of like listening to call to prayer. I think it's fine. I don't want to hear that in Barnsley Town Centre. I don't want to walk around Sheffield and have to hear the call to prayer. That sort of stuff should stay in the Middle East. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. If I get any updates from my friend who's in Colombia, see when he crosses over the border, I will let you guys know. Anyway, guys, I'm going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic as always. I think later on today, I'm going to be in the house. I'm going to try and set things up in the house because I want to get both platforms on, and I want it so the people on TikTok can comment, but they can't comment at the moment. I don't know why I can't change the settings. Anyway, guys, I bid you good morning, and I'll see you later.